What are you looking
Ever
at?
watch someone swing power around in a room only to realize they're picking a fight with the exact people trained to end it clean, legally, and on camera? Stick with me, because this starts as a typical wrong place, wrong faces moment, and ends with careers collapsing under the weight of their own choices. It was a Friday night at Danny's Tavern, the kind of place where the country music plays just loud enough to keep conversations private. The neon beer signs glow in the windows, and the off-duty crowd treats the bar like an extension of the station. The lights were low, the air smelled like fried food and spilled whiskey, and the vibe was the usual blend of small-town comfort and quiet territorial energy, until it wasn't Daniel and David Thompson, 34-year-old black twins, sat in a booth near the back, nursing beers they'd barely touched. Same height, same athletic build, same calm faces, except their calm wasn't the calm of people trying to disappear. It was the calm of people who'd been tested in places where mistakes get people killed. They weren't dressed to impress, casual shirts, jeans, clean boots, nothing flashy. If you didn't know better, you'd label them regular guy and move on. And that's exactly what Officer Brett Coleman did when he swaggered over with two friends, already a little too loud for someone carrying a badge and a gun. He cut through the music like a blade. "Hey, you two, I think you better get out of here before things get complicated." He planted himself at their table like he owned the furniture. His two colleagues formed a loose semicircle behind him, a classic intimidation formation, whether they realized it or not. One was Officer Rick Torres, older than the third, eyes sharper, posture tighter, hand hovering too close to his waistband like his instincts didn't trust the situation. The third was Jake Morrison, young, cocky, and visibly intoxicated, the kind of guy who mistakes volume for authority. Brett leaned forward and rested both hands on the table, invading space on purpose. Daniel didn't flinch. He didn't even look up right away, just turned his bottle slightly in his hand, like he was thinking, not reacting. "Is there a problem, officer?" Daniel asked, voice steady, almost bored. His relaxed posture should have been a warning sign, but Brett was too busy enjoying the power trip to read it. Rick Torres did notice, though. A tiny frown pulled at his face, the look of someone whose survival instincts are quietly raising a flag. "The problem," Brett said, dropping his voice into that special kind of condescending threat, "is this isn't exactly the kind of place for people like you. We don't want trouble." David finally looked up. His eyes met Brett's with a serenity that wasn't submission, no fear, no pleading, just the tired patience of someone who's seen this exact scene play out too many times in too many towns. "Trouble," David said calmly. "We're just having a quiet beer." Jake let out an ugly laugh, rocking slightly on his feet. "Don't you get it? This bar is ours, our turf. And we don't like suspicious characters hanging around here." Around them, the bar did what places like that often do. A few people glanced over, then looked away fast. Some pretended the TV was suddenly fascinating. A couple kept eating like nothing was happening, because most people have learned that stepping into conflict with cops off duty or not rarely ends well for the person without the badge. It was a familiar setup. 3 armed officers against 2 black men whose only crime was being present in the wrong space. Daniel and David exchanged a glance. Half a second. Nothing dramatic. But in that micro moment, a full conversation passed between them. Years of shared history, patterns recognized, options evaluated. What Brett couldn't imagine was that the silence he was enjoying wasn't fear. It was assessment. Jake's stance was unstable, drunk enough to be a liability with a firearm. David's eyes did a different scan. He clocked the security cameras, one near the bar mirror. One above the entrance, one angled toward the back booths. He measured the distance to the emergency exit. He noticed the owner, Louise, watching from behind the counter with a tight, uneasy expression, like someone who'd seen Brett's little routine before. Daniel spoke again, calm to the point of being infuriating. "Look, we don't want any trouble. We'll finish our drinks and leave. No fuss. No argument. A clean exit plan." Brett didn't want clean. Brett wanted control. He slammed his palm on the table hard enough to rattle glass. "No, you're leaving now, and you're going to thank me for being in a good mood today." In Daniel's head, a flashback hit like a punch. He and David at 15, walking home from school, stopped for no reason. "Did you steal those backpacks?" a cop asked, as if 2 black boys carrying school bags automatically meant suspicion. That day, they had lowered their heads and complied. humiliation burning down into memory. But they weren't 15 anymore. David moved slowly, deliberately pulling out his wallet like he was handling a live wire. You know, he said softly, it'd be interesting to see your IDs, just to confirm you're actually officers. Brett's face reddened. Are you challenging me? Rick touched Brett's shoulder, a quiet warning. Man, let it go. They're leaving. Rick's instincts were screaming now. There was something off about the twins. The calm wasn't normal. It wasn't the calm of people who've given up. It was the calm of people who can handle themselves. Jake, too drunk and too proud to read the room, stepped forward and jabbed a trembling finger toward David. You think you can come in here and act all cute, he slurred. We run this town. Daniel repeated the words like he was tasting them. Run this town, he said, and for the first time there was a sharp edge under his calm. Interesting, Brett shoved Daniel's shoulder. Get up now. The whole bar went silent. Even the music felt quieter, like the room itself was listening. Daniel and David stood at the same time, synchronized, smooth, no wasted motion. Their builds showed more clearly now, the kind of strength you don't get from looking good in a mirror, but from training and repetition and years of carrying responsibility. We're leaving then, Daniel said, but you're going to regret how you handled this. Brett laughed loud, reckless. Oh yeah? We'll see who regrets it when I search you outside. I'm sure I'll find something questionable. David looked at him with something close to pity. You have no idea who you're talking to, do you? Jake spat, drunk and nasty. I don't care if you're kings of Africa. Here, you're nothing. The twins walked toward the door. Brett and his buddies followed like they were escorting criminals. Rick Torres felt cold crawl up his spine, and he couldn't explain why, only that his body was reading danger faster than his brain wanted to admit. In the doorway, Daniel stopped and turned. One last chance, he said evenly. Back down. Apologize for what you just did. Brett puffed his chest, or what Daniel smiled. Not angry, not cocky. A dangerous kind of smile, patience. The kind you see in people who already know how the story ends. Or nothing, Daniel said. Just thought it was fair to warn you. And when they stepped into the dim, flickering parking lot, the next few minutes were about to rewrite everything Brett thought he knew about power. You know what the problem is with people like you, Brett hissed, whiskey thick on his breath. You think you can walk in anywhere like you're our equal. Jake circled David with sloppy confidence. Bet you got drugs. You always do. Rick hovered with his hand too close to his gun, eyes darting, voice tight. Brett enough, let it. Gee. Brett ignored him. Daniel's eyes moved, calculating distances and angles like a habit built in harsher classrooms. A memory flickered. Fallujah, 2011, crouched behind debris, 3 armed insurgents. 3 seconds to decide. He didn't move now because he didn't need to. David stayed still too because stillness can be control, not fear. Brett slapped Daniel on the head. I'm talking to you. David's voice cut in, low and controlled. Be careful what you say. Some words don't come back. Jake shoved David hard. Or what? You gonna sue me? Call the police? He spread his arms with a laugh. We're the police, you idiot. Brett started patting Daniel's pockets aggressively, tossing his phone and wallet onto the ground. Expensive phone for somebody who probably stole it, he sneered. Daniel's head turned slightly. Pick it up, he said. It wasn't a request. It was an order delivered in an even tone, the kind of command men are trained to follow instantly. Brett heard the authority and it lit his ego on fire. Or what are you going to do? David watched Jake's shaky hands reach toward him, and you could see it, the mismatch. Jake's movements were sloppy, uncertain. David's presence was steady, heavy, controlled. Do you have any idea how many laws you've broken in the last 10 minutes? David asked calmly. Harassment, assault, illegal search, intimidation, and you're armed while drunk. Brett laughed, trying to turn it into a joke. Look at the street lawyer giving us a lesson. Rick finally stepped forward, voice urgent now. Brett, stop. Something's not right. Jake poked David's chest. People like you always want attention. Daniel and David exchanged that glance again. Half a second, silent, precise. Combat coordination. Brett pulled out handcuffs with a flourish. You know what? We're taking you in. Suspicious behavior. Resisting authority. Daniel turned fully to face him. We haven't resisted anything, he said. Then he let one word hang in the air like a warning light. Yet. Brett snapped open the cuffs, hands behind your back. Daniel's answer was simple. No. 3 seconds of silence fell. Brett blinked, confused by the concept of refusal. What did you say? Daniel crossed his arms. I said no. We haven't committed a crime. We're not getting handcuffed. And if you touch me again, you'll learn it was the worst decision you ever made. Brett's voice climbed. Are you threatening a police officer? David's tone stayed calm. He's warning you. There's a difference. Rick stepped back, hands raised, trying to salvage what was left. Guys.
Seriously.
Let's go, but Brett's ego was in too deep. No, these two are going to learn today. He grabbed his radio, calling for backup. Daniel laughed, once known, no humor, just disbelief. You have no idea what right looks like. Jake made the worst choice possible. He pulled out his baton and advanced. And that's when the twins stopped being two guys and became exactly what they were. Professionals who know how to control a situation with minimal force and maximum documentation. David moved his head a couple centimeters, barely anything, letting the baton slice air. Jake stumbled forward on his own momentum. Daniel's phone was suddenly up, camera recording. His voice was calm, clear, and clinical. Unprovoked assault with a blunt weapon by an armed off-duty officer, he narrated. Attempted illegal arrest. Multiple witnesses. Brett lunged for the phone, but Daniel stepped back twice, keeping perfect distance like he was training a class. David raised his own phone. Now it's two officers attempting to confiscate property during an assault, he said, voice flat. Rick's face changed. He finally recognized the movement patterns. This wasn't bravado. This was training. Brett, Rick said, almost pleading, stop. Now. Louise came out of the bar's back door holding her phone up. County sheriff's on the way, she called, and I already sent the video to local news. Brett snapped at her. You're fired, and your bar's getting inspected tomorrow. It won't, a new voice said, sharp and authoritative. A black woman in a suit stepped from a car parked in the shadows, badge visible. Because I'm Assistant District Attorney Lisa Monroe, she said, and I just watched 3 police. Multiple documented crimes. Brett's face drained. Lisa walked closer, counting on her fingers like she was reading an incident report. Harassment, intimidation, assault, abuse of authority, misconduct, attempted unlawful detention. Shall I continue? Jake stammered, pointing. They started it. They provoked us. Lisa raised an eyebrow. The footage shows you started it inside, continued outside, and escalated after multiple warnings. David's mouth twitched into the smallest smile. Prosecutor Monroe, he said. Long time. Lisa's eyes narrowed with recognition. Commander Thompson, she replied, then glanced at Daniel. Captain Thompson. The parking lot went silent in a way that felt physical. Rick closed his eyes like he'd just watched the floor give out. Brett's brain tried to catch up. Wait, what? Daniel stepped forward and his posture shifted. Not aggressive, not threatening, just unmistakably authoritative. Captain Daniel Thompson, U.S. Army, he said. Ranger Battalion. We are not required to identify ourselves to drunk off-duty civilians with badges, he said. Especially when you're committing crimes on camera. Rick tried again, desperate. We can forget this. Misunderstanding Lisa's voice was ice. 3 armed officers, intoxicated, harassed 2 civilians, attempted illegal arrest, and committed assault. You think that disappears? Jake wiped sweat from his face. If we'd known they were military, David tilted his head. So you're saying it would have been fine to do this to ordinary civilians? That question hit harder than any punch, because there was no good answer. Brett's last play was the oldest one. No proof, our word versus yours. 3 officers. Daniel's smile returned, sharp this time. Prosecutor, how many videos? 4 angles, Lisa said, checking her tablet. Louise has inside footage. Both brothers have parking lot footage. I have the last 8 minutes David lifted his wrist, and our watches record audio and video. Standard security protocol. Like he'd been hit. The sheriff's car rolled in, lights flashing. Deputies stepped out, and one of them gave Lisa a respectful nod. You called Ada Monroe? Yes, she said. Detain these 3. Harassment, assault, abuse of authority, attempted unlawful detention, and that's just the start. The handcuffs clicked onto wrists that had abused them for years. Brett looked at the twins, stunned. How did you set this up? Daniel's answer was calm, devastating. We didn't set anything up. You did. We just made sure it was documented. Louise approached the twins quietly. Thank you, she said. They've been doing this for years. David's eyes narrowed. How many? Dozens, maybe more, Louise admitted. Always the same targets. Anyone they thought wouldn't fight back. Lisa looked at the brothers. I'll need statements tomorrow, she said. But tonight, you're free. As the deputies loaded the officers into cars, their phones started exploding with notifications. The video had already hit the internet. Faces, badge numbers, names, everything clear. It went viral in hours. People started posting other stories, other clips, other complaints. By morning, national outlets were calling. By afternoon, the mayor announced an internal overhaul. By evening, federal investigators were circling. The collapse wasn't caused by the twins doing something to the officers. It was caused by the officers doing what they always did, only this time. The targets had discipline, rank, and documentation. Months later, the department had reviewed dozens of cases. Officers were suspended, fired, prosecuted. Victims were exonerated. And the story that had started with a quiet beer ended as a public reminder that arrogance is not authority, a badge is not permission, and prejudice is a liability that eventually detonates, especially when it meets competence, patience, and proof. If this story hit you, share it with someone who's tired of watching abuse go unanswered. And subscribe, because the most powerful moments are the ones where dignity stays calm, records everything, and lets consequences do the talking.